Now, Lewis Hamilton has revealed the pain caused by the bouncing of his Mercedes left him praying for the end of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix on Sunday. After Hamilton had experienced severe discomfort during practice and qualifying, the Mercedes driver had warned he was concerned about making it through the race. The 7-time world champion battled through the 51 laps of the Baku city circuit to finish in 4th, making several outtakes to take advantage of the extra points made available by a Ferrari double DNF, which left Max Verstappen to lead a Red Bull 1-2. However, despite the 1-2 for Red Bull, it's the porpoising which is the main topic to come from Baku, and it's starting to frustrate Christian Horner. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner believes some of his rivals are exaggerating their concerns over porpoising in the hope of provoking a rules change. Drivers from several teams have urged the FIA to make changes to the rules in order to reduce the porpoising they've experienced. George Russell has warned a serious crash is likely if the rules aren't changed. However, Red Bull have largely avoided the bouncing problem, and Horner claimed others are pushing the safety angle to prompt a reaction from the FIA. He said he would tell his drivers to do the same thing if they were in the same position as some of their rivals. "I'd like them to bitch as much as they could over the radio and make as big an issue out of it as they possibly could," said Horner in response to a question from race fans. "It's part of the game, it's like somebody diving in a penalty box." Asked whether he believes that is what some teams are doing, Horner replied, "Of course it is." Now, he said the teams who have problems with porpoising could solve it by raising their ride height, though doing that would make their cars slower. "You can see it's uncomfortable," he conceded. "There are remedies to that, but it's to the detriment of the car performance. So what the easiest thing to do is to complain from a safety point of view, but each team has a choice." Now, Horner said it would not be fair to introduce rule changes which affect the entire grid when some teams are not suffering problems with porpoising. If it was a genuine safety concern across the whole grid, then it's something that should be looked at. But if it's only affecting isolated people or teams, then that's something that team should potentially deal with. "You have a choice when you run your car, don't you?" he added. "And you should never run a car that's unsafe. But I think that's more for the technical guys, because certain cars have issues and there's some cars that have very few issues. It would seem unfair to penalise the ones that have done a decent job versus the ones that have perhaps missed the target slightly." However, McLaren team principal Andreas Seidel, whose driver Daniel Ricciardo reported back pain after the race, said it's important to take these comments seriously from the drivers. "It's important to have a discussion in the technical advisory committee on what's the next step, what's the right way going forward," Seidel explained. "It's easy to say it's easy to stop the porpoising, just adjust the setup and sacrifice a bit of performance," he added. "But in the end, due to the competitive nature of the game we're in, obviously you want to go to the limit of what's acceptable and also for what the drivers can survive on track. That obviously could go in the wrong direction. That's why it's very important to have this discussion." Now, Daniel Ricciardo, who produced an improved performance to finish 8th ahead of his McLaren teammate Lando Norris, expressed his sympathy for the Mercedes drivers after the race. Despite struggling for pace at times this season, McLaren have been one of the teams least affected by bouncing or porpoising, but the bumpy Baku circuit saw the Australians suffer. "I feel like, when pro basketball players bounce the ball really low, that's what I felt like someone was doing to my helmet," he told Sky Sports F1. "It got worse and worse, and I sympathise with everyone that's had it now. It's bad. I genuinely feel rattled. I'm definitely going to help out when people talk about it. I know George has been vocal about it, that it's not sustainable. It's not good for our general health and well-being. It's not normal the high frequency load that we get. I'm shaken, probably because it's the first time I've truly felt what some others feel. It definitely felt bad." Sky Sports F1 pundit Martin Brundle says he's surprised that Mercedes cannot seem to unlock the potential of their excellent car and sees little chance of rival teams voting to change the regulations in their favour. The teams that have got it sorted are clearly saying that's Mercedes' problem and it's not Formula One's problem, Brundle told Sky Sports News. "There's no doubt about it, it looks particularly uncomfortable. Of course, Mercedes can fix it by raising the car, but then they lose a huge amount of performance. So they need to get the car low, stiff on the suspension and stiff on the sidewall of the new tyres as well, and they've had to sacrifice comfort for performance. What's surprising really is that Mercedes just can't seem to get a handle on what looks like actually quite an excellent car, if they could just unlock it." Now, it was reported this weekend that teams had voted against a proposal to reduce porpoising before the start of the season, and Brundle sees little chance of the teams changing the rules now. Generally, we had porpoising back in the 80s. When you have these ground effect cars, it's always been an issue. It's still in sports car racing. I was at Le Mans, and in the prototypes there, they have porpoising and ground effect issues in terms of bouncing. It needs managing. To ask the other teams to change the regulations to help Mercedes is a bit like asking a turkey to vote for Christmas. I'm not underplaying what George Russell and Lewis Hamilton are going through because it does look particularly painful. And the Ferrari drivers just at the crucial braking points that look plain tricky to me, I don't know how they go into the corners frankly. Now, after productive practice sessions and qualifying in Azerbaijan, Ferrari had a nightmare race day with both Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc having to retire due to engine failures. Leclerc, who led the championship after 5 races, has now dropped to 3rd in the standings behind both the Red Bull drivers, and brundle signals that Ferrari's variety of reliability issues will derail their drivers' title hopes. We're into the thick of a 22 race season. Races are coming relentlessly at us. If you've got one big issue, you go and fix it. But there are various gremlins that Ferrari are having. Charles Leclerc must be beside himself. He could have had 4 glorious victories, he's sticking the car on pole position, driving beautifully, and then this kind of thing, engine failures, happening to him just way too much. Reliability is costing him heavily now, a chance at becoming world champion. Strategy cost him in Monaco a chance of a glorious victory in his hometown. He loves Ferrari and Ferrari love him in a way that the last time I saw something like that was between Michael Schumacher and the Ferrari team. There's an awful lot of love to burn through there, but right now Leclerc must be feeling as bruised as Lewis's back. Charles Leclerc has pleaded with Ferrari to solve their engine woes after revealing the hurt caused by his latest retirement at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. For Leclerc, it was a second retirement from the lead with an engine failure in 3 races after he called on his team for no more mistakes following disappointments in Spain and Monaco. It hurts. We really need to look into that for it not to happen again. I can't really find the right words to describe this, said Leclerc, who dropped below Perez to 3rd in the World Championship standings. It's very disappointing. I don't know, we really need to look into it. The DNF means Leclerc has been unable to convert 4 successive pole positions into race wins, becoming the first driver to do that since Juan Pablo Montoya in 2002. We've been fast and we didn't have particularly big problems in the first part of the season, Leclerc added. I think we have a bit more compared to the beginning of the season, but we didn't change massive things. If anything, we made the car better. It's difficult to understand for now, we'll have to analyze it. I don't have the full picture of what happened today, but just personally, again it hurts. Now, it's not only Leclerc who's concerned about the engine problems Ferrari have been suffering, with team principal Matteo Binotto admitting they need to urgently analyse why reliability has become such an issue in the last few races. Certainly it's a concern, we said it even before coming here to Baku, Binotto said. Reliability is always a factor which is a key factor in the battle as performance is. As a team, we pushed through a lot through the winter last year to develop the car. We've proved that we're not yet fully reliable, there's still some work to be done. But it seems there is little time for team engineers to work or for the drivers to recuperate as the Formula 1 season continues this weekend with the Canadian GP.